Hey chat. Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another trek through Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. We're on volume 26, chapter appendix, The Austrian Kingdom's Dossier on Rudeus Grey Rat, part 2. I don't know why I said that whole thing. Hey guys, welcome to the premiere. Hey chat, hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Monday after Mushoku Monday. But yes, greatly appreciate you guys' support. I got it wrong last week, but yes, technically we do have 2 more chapters after the dossier. I was just mainly going based on like actual pages. I was wanting to split it up into 2. That way I didn't have too much stuff. But like I said last week, I'll be giving my final thoughts on the mainline series because yes, for those that missed last week, we are done, officially done with volume 26, and we'll be going off into the side stuff. Don't worry. Earthly's getting so sick of how many people are suggesting which ones to go to. I told him at some point, it's trolling at this point. I'm gonna be trolling people at this point. I'm not gonna do any of the side chapters, guys. We're not gonna do any of this. I'm just gonna do Roxy Get Serious, and that's it. That's all I'm doing, and I'm just gonna give a scathing review of the Mushoku Tensei series that it skipped all these side characters and all these side stories. Worst series ever. It's great. It's great. I love it. I love it. I feed off of your guys' tears and anger. But anyhow, I greatly appreciate you guys' support. Your kind words help me get through all this travel through the Mushoku Tensei series. Additionally, greatly appreciate everybody support channels monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships. That stuff means a great deal to me. We had Noah last week with a massive super thank you. Your support means so much to me. Totally Not an Eel with a super thank you. Gosmack Diesel with a super thank you. Big Al with a big super thank you so much, Big Al. Is it Big Al or Big Alabama? I don't know. Big Al. We're gonna go with Big Al. Spud Monkey with a massive super. Thank you so much, Spud Monkey, for the ongoing support. Thank you. Bulbous with a super and 2 months of membership. Thank you. Rose Moist with a super and 17 months, going close to that 2-year mark. And Sergio Donna with a super at the very tail end of the premiere. Thank you guys so much. It means a great deal to me. You guys support me. It's what's helped this keep going. It's helped it grow. All that stuff. Thank you. But with all that said, let's finish off Appendix, The Austrian Kingdom's Dossier on Rudius Grey Rat, Part 2. Jumping into the memoirs and code of Rudius Grey Rat, which I know exactly what they're talking about here because technically, yes, I've gone to the end of the book here. It was believed that the records of the research above were written in the 52 volumes that form the Book of Rudius. That makes a lot more sense as to why all this stuff is technically public, because a lot of this stuff is probably not going to be too public. But that makes sense right there because it's literally Rudius' diary that he's writing in Japanese. The code is going to be Japanese, since they are written entirely in a code that is used between himself and Silent Seven Star that is yet to be fully decrypted. However, their credibility is questionable. Interesting. Well, for one thing, 52 freaking volumes. Rudius wrote 52 volumes, like he's been writing up this stuff, which again, I technically makes sense if he wants to keep Nanahoshi in check to know what's going on, so that, yeah, if he passes away and she's been frozen this whole time, when she comes out, she knows the hell's been going on. Anything that he's been able to figure out, leaving as much details as possible to Nanahoshi with how she works. This girl's a thinker. She figures stuff out. She's very smart. And so if she has 52 volumes of just random stuff that Rudius has run into in the world, weird mechanics, the spells that he's worked on, the magic circles, all that kind of stuff, she's going to read through all that and probably find something he didn't figure out. Just like Oldius' diary. When she looked through that, she figured out something that seems to have a lot of validity. Build and character. Rudius was approximately 175 centimeters tall and had, for a magician, a comparatively strong and muscular build. He had pale skin, and his eyes were mismatched, as he used the eye of foresight for his right eye and the eye of distant sight for his left. He is never described as handsome, but his wife Sylphie is said to have thought looking at his face for just a few seconds was enough to make me weak at the knees when they met at the University of Magic. His other wives, Edis Grey Rat and Roxy M. Grey Rat, didn't make any comment on his looks, but we can assume that he wasn't exceptionally ugly. Okay. It's like we can't take Sylphia's word for it. Unreliable source. His preferred outfit supposed to be his light gray robe without a hat. He was disinterested in clothing in his youth. It was written in the remaining records that while attending the university, he wore a robe that was fraying at the hem. And in the Austrian Kingdom, a number of nobles looked disapprovingly at this strange appearance when he presented himself in the audience chamber. He came to pay more attention to his personal appearance after turning 20, and around 430, Armored Dragon King Petagoose commented that he has made himself more presentable lately. Who who got the word from Petagoose? Who got the word from Petagoose? While insensitive to his own appearance, he was fastidious about cleanliness, renovating a room of his home into a large bath, which he is said to have used every day. Yeah, I could totally see this being an oddity about him. He doesn't really care so much about his looks. He's always wearing, like, messy clothes. He's never really presenting himself well. I think the only reason he starts presenting himself well is because he didn't want to make Sylphie look bad. He didn't want to make Ariel look bad. He didn't want to make everybody else look bad. He didn't care. But yes, it does look a little bit odd, the idea that he has a bath that is being used every day, which is very foreign in this world. It makes sense that this seems like an oddity here. When it started bringing up the idea of cleanliness, I thought it was going to bring up the fact that he, like, every inn he goes to, he ends up using wind magic and stuff like that to clean it out or whatever. Rudeus was feared in Shiraya, but he was also more beloved than any other magician, as can be seen by his grand funeral and the many mourners who attended, as well as the monument that was erected in the corner of the Magic University engraved with Rudeus' own words. I really want to know what those words are. And you guys couldn't make him valedictorian. Now you guys care about him. Rudeus is believed to have been social, with a kind and good-natured personality, but his intense libido did not go without comment. Interesting. He's believed to be sociable and kind and good-natured personality. It seems like a lot of this has kind of changed over time because for so long, Rudeus was seen as sort of somebody that people didn't like. A lot of people feared him. Like the university is a good example. Everybody avoided him. They were afraid of him. So something must have changed at some point. Or at least outside of the university, he's not seen as somebody that's feared as much. Descriptions remained about how he touched and fondled his wives without any restraint or regard for watchers on. He was, in fact, devoted to his wives and never made a move on other women. Sure. So some historians opine that his lechery is groundless rumor. Nope. He did plenty of it outside his wives. In addition, he was such a gentle disposition that he smiled through the insults and violence directed at him. But when harm came to his family or friends, he would get in such a fury that at times he became violent. Yeah. Again, I've said this several times before, and we've kind of pointed out several times before. There's so many cases where it's like, somebody does him wrong. Okay. Somebody does him wrong. Okay. The moment it turns to somebody else, suddenly he takes action. It happened with Orsted. The moment that the whole situation with Orsted and the threat to his family came, he went ballistic. At Millis, the moment that Zenith was put in danger, suddenly he became irate, uncontrollable. Dude was not acting normal. The following anecdotes describe Rudeus' personality. At a party in the Austria Kingdom, when a noble made fun of Rudeus' wife, Rudeus seized him by the throat and dragged him out of the party, burned a whole forest to ash before his eyes, and demanded an apology. Okay. That's out of nowhere. When his great friends, Lydia and Priscilla, broke a figure model of his wife, Rudeus punished them the most humiliating way possible for beast folk. We know about that one. When Petagoose invited Rudeus to the floating fortress to name his child, Rudeus misunderstood and thought Petagoose intended to harm his child. He appeared fully armed and threatened Petagoose that there would be a war if any harm came to his child. Sort of. That's sort of. He technically did walk up there with Orsted in tow and was ready for something. It should be noted the veracity of these anecdotes is unconfirmed. Okay, I didn't get to the asterisk yet. While Rudeus is not generally well known, the majority of world's most prominent figures know of him and regard him with admiration or awe. A piece of white cloth was found in his pocket after his death. All the way to the end. The Holy Relic. All the way to the end. Never let it go. Never let it go. He's in his deathbed, and that thing's still in his pocket. A piece of white cloth was found in his pocket after his death. His wife, Roxy, hurried to hide it, leading to rumors that some great secret might have been concealed within it. It's the fabric, the holy fabric. Of course it must be hidden. It is unclear whether those rumors contain any shred of truth. Oh my gosh, the Holy Relic to the end. He's like, and again, this is a dude that's like, at the end of his life, he's going senile. He's starting to forget things, but yet that cloth still has to remain there. Like, he's gripping onto it. Can't forget this. Can't forget the Holy Relic. Never forget Roxy's Pantsu. That's great. thematically, it's great because, like I've said several times, I find the whole idea of the worship of Roxy to be probably one of the most fascinating things about the story. Again, the idea that goes from something that is kind of pervy, yeah, it's pervy. He keeps her Ponsu, wants to always remember her, doesn't want it to be cleaned. And then it goes to, again, it being sort of a comfort cloth, to it becoming something that's worshipped. And it becomes something real to him. It is his religion. It has always been the most fascinating thing about his story. And it's held to the very, very end. Roxy's gotta hide it. Roxy's gotta hide it. Who ratted Roxy out, by the way? Who ratted Roxy out? Anyways, that's great. He is said to be the origin point for the theory of critical period for mana capacity, namely that mana capacity can be strengthened in early childhood, and is resultantly responsible for its incorporation into education. Again, they kind of mentioned that earlier. I kind of assumed that would be the case. Really cool. Really cool. And again, going to be a huge part of why Mages is going to be much more prominent. He loved rice, eggs, and the ogre water of the Beryl Kingdom. I'm guessing ogre water is the soy sauce. He is also said to have an unsavory habit of eating raw eggs. Ooh, gross. I can't do it. I can't do it. Records indicate he worships some unknown dark god. Puzzlingly, no god can be matched to the coat of arms he worshipped. Wait, what? Records indicate that he worships some unknown dark god. I'm assuming that's going to be Roxy. He worships Roxy. Puzzlingly, no gods can be matched to the coat of arms he worshipped. We can assume this god disappeared in antiquity, or Rudeus perhaps created this god for himself. Some also theorize that he was irreligious, or that he worshipped the dragon god. Nope, just the Roxy. Just the Roxy god. You know what? I'm actually really surprised that this didn't get out. I was really expecting that with Rudeus' sort of religious around Roxy, that at some point it would actually become something that seeps out. Like the whole thing with Linnea and Priscilla essentially being like traumatized over Roxy, of him being super mad at them for destroying the Roxy figure, and them literally chanting Roxy in front of them. You know, all that stuff right there, everything around Zenobia, I could totally see Zenobia doing something with that as well. Just knowing how much Rudeus absolutely adores Roxy, that at some point, one of the people that were involved with him being in that sort of religious, like, outburst mode, that it would eventually get out to where cut forward like 200 years, there's going to be at some point somebody is going, what is this religion of Roxy? Let's try to create this religion. Like, they find a relic of Rudeus's, like one of his shrines, and they think, okay, let's worship this thing. Maybe good things will come of us. And it actually becomes a religion. That's just something that I wouldn't doubt would have popped up at some point. Family and relatives. The Grey Rat family, a high-ranking noble family in the Afterword Kingdom. It contains the 4 families of Notos, Boreas, Zephyros, and Eros. All 4 families govern with their own large domain, which is why they are also called the 4 Great Houses. Rudeus was a direct descendant of Notos Grey Rats, but his father, Paul, ran away from his family and was therefore expunged from the Notos Grey Rat family tree. Paul, Grey Rat, dirtbag, father, dirtbag, eldest son of the Notos Grey Rats, dirtbag, a high-ranking Austrian noble family, dirtbag, ran away. I'm sorry. I love Paul. Father, eldest son of the Notos Grey Rats, a high-ranking Austrian noble family, ran away as a young man and became an adventurer. Later, he met Zenith, then appealed to his old friend Philip, Boris Grey Rat, and became a low-ranking knight of the Fatoa region. Pretty much covers it all. Yeah. And then banged his maid. And then banged his maid and made the best little sister ever. Zenith Grey Rat, mother, second daughter of the Latrius of the Holy Land of Milis. That's it. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much a wrap. Ran away from home just like Paul. It's interesting that they go into detail about Paul running away from his family and everything. And right here, it doesn't get into Zenith running away from her family. Lilia Grey Rat, maid, Paul's lover. No, it's Zenith's wife. It's Zenith's wife. Get it right. See, this is the problem with these people and their third-person perspective. They don't know the story that we all know. We've seen the blood, sweat, and tears that went into the story. Norn Grey Rat, Nornal, legitimate younger sister, novelist. There it is. Confirmation. I mean, technically she was already writing something before now. She was writing the whole story for the figurine, but specifically novelist is kind of a big thing there. It kind of implies more than one. Aisha Grey Rat, younger sister by his stepmother. advisor to Ruquag mercenary band. I'm actually really happy that despite the fact that they just said Norn Grey Rat is a legitimate younger sister, that this one doesn't say illegitimate. I was going to be a little bit mad. Sylphiette Grey Rat, wife, 1/4 elf. That's it. Roxy M. Grey Rat, wife, demon of the Midgard, headmistress of the Magic University. That's it. Addis Grey Rat, wife, human, Sword King. That's it. I was so looking forward to this segment. But no, we're just going to say, yeah. But, interesting, Sword King. Sword King never goes any farther, which again, doesn't shock me. She doesn't care about the titles. She literally went there to get trained. I need to fight Orsted. She didn't care about the title. She doesn't need it. Lucy Grey Rat, eldest daughter. Lada Grey Rat, second daughter. Ars Grey Rat, eldest son. Sig Saladin Grey Rat, second son. Lily Grey Rat, third daughter. Christina Grey Rat, fourth daughter. Yeah, it was the one I missed. I'm sorry. It was the one I didn't get on the cover art was Christina. Other associated individuals. Zenoba Sharon. Okay, now we're going to get in some deets. These ones got some deets in them. Zenoba Sharon, upperclassman at the Magic University, a former prince of Sharon, president of a figurine company, blessed child of fantastic strength. The publication of the picture book, The Superb's Adventure, was largely thanks to his and Norn's efforts. Zenoba respected Rudeus as his mentor, but Rudeus always said, when it comes to knowledge of figurines, Zenoba's the best. Of course. That's fine. Cliff Grimoire, upperclassman at the Magic University, later became the Pope of the Mills Church. He is said to have protected Rudeus, who was often in some trouble or other with the Mills Church. Rudeus reportedly relied on him and is believed to have said with conviction that I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Cliff. Damn straight. Cliff always looking out for my bro. That and technically Zenoba shielding him like 50 times from death strikes, but yeah, Cliff good bro. Cliff always helping him with the church. Silent 7-star, upperclassman at the Magic University, also known as the Witch Nanahoshi. The Witch Nanahoshi? She set up teleportation circles in nations throughout the world and collaborated with Rudeus to develop and bring about many revolutionary inventions. Interesting, that's very much so. I don't think she cared, but my gosh, it feels like they're kind of painting Nanahoshi or Silent 7-star as being kind of bad. Like the Witch Nanahoshi. And again, this goes to the whole idea of the teleportation circles. That yes, Rudeus, as he's going around and he's trying to spread the word of Silent 7-star, he is trying to get it known by essentially doing things in her name, doing the teaching in her name. And yes, setting up the teleportation circles probably in her name probably is creating a lot of hatred for her, but does it really matter? With popularity comes people that don't like you, is really what it is. Because you do a lot of things that are great, people don't like it or whatever, or it gets in the way of other people's ways of making money or living, and eventually they're not going to like you. Like the idea of Rudeus making silent casting and mana pool increasing, more well known. Swords fighters aren't going to like it. People of power aren't going to like it because then people that are poor or whatever could rise up. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that she does have some sort of negative appeal around her name, but it is interesting. Ariel Enamoy Osra, Queen of the Osra Kingdom, according to the Chronicles of the Osra Kingdom, right before her death, she croaked already. She told her trusted retainer, Luke, that it was largely thanks to Rudeus' effort that the Osra Kingdom is at peace today. Be sure not to make an enemy of him after my death. So when did she die? I wonder if it says later. I'm kind of curious when she dies. I think she was a little bit older than him before, but not many years. Alexander K. Ryback, North God Kalman III, originally number 7 of the 7 Great Powers, the left hand of the Dragon God. After Rudeus stepped down from his center stage, Alexander is believed to have gone around to the nations of the world as the Dragon God's representative in his stead. Interesting. Again, technically taking that role that Rudeus used to be in. He's taken my spot. I used to be right there. Linnea de Doldia, leader of the Quagmire mercenary band. She took it over. Well, I guess technically not a CEO, though. I think she was already kind of classified as a leader. As a leader of her Beastfolk tribe. What? As a leader of her Beastfolk tribe? Like her little band? Or are we talking about the Beastfolk tribe? No, because that would be chief. She is believed to have served as an intermediary between Rudeus and the Beastfolk. Priscilla Adoldia, second in command of the Quagmire mercenary band. Like Linnea, as a leader of the Beastfolk tribe, she is believed to have served as the intermediary between Rudeus and the Beastfolk. See, they're not really necessarily saying the Beastfolk tribe. Her Beastfolk tribe. So they're leaders of a Dodoldia and Adoldia, which technically would put Linnea as the top, right? Either way, interesting that they went back. I was not really expecting them to go back to the Beastfolk. I think that's the most interesting thing about that. Being a leader of the mercenary band and the Beastfolk tribe, or at least the Dodoldia, would just be like way too much for Linnea. I'm sorry, she must have grown up a lot. Did they ever say that her name was Linnea? I don't think I've ever seen that before. Interesting. I mean, I would assume it's always been a short. It's not that big of a deal. Like Alec rather than Alexander. Not a big deal. Pedagogus Dola, the Armored Dragon King, one of the 3 God Slayers, a prominent figure in the Austria Kingdom and Silent Seven Stars mentor. There are frequent references to Rudeus in the Chronicles of the Austria Kingdom, but the nature of his relationship with Rudeus is unknown. Orsted, the Dragon God, number 2 of the 7 Great Powers. Though Rudeus' covert activities are assumed to have been in the service to the Orsted's goals, details of these activities are unknown. Orsted very rarely appeared center stage, but he attended Rudeus' funeral and allegedly was with the family to witness Rudeus' death. Papa Orsted made sure to be there. I mean, I joked about that last week, the idea of like 3,900 people fled the scene, but it's like, technically, yeah, I guess he could have had a really nice helmet on. And that's it. Bibliography. This is the cool stuff, and I hope there's something really juicy in here, because this is where you technically get into where did this information come from. Now, it's unfortunate that they didn't go into depth to where it was actually, marked in the information where the information comes from. Like, here's the source, this statement, here's the source, but it's still fun. That'd be a lot of work. Bibliography, the Royal Austrian Historiographical Institute, the Chronicles of the Austria Kingdom, the Austria Kingdom 480. Again, they've actually noted this one several times. Apparently there's this Chronicle of the Austria Kingdom that is where a lot of the information came from. Grey Rat Norn, the Superd's Adventure, Zenobia Figurine Company, 427. And again, this was, 427. This was made a long time ago. This is like one of the only ones that we really noted before Rudeus' death. Grey Rat Norn, second one. Aisha Grey Rat, The Agonies of Genius. Ruquag Mercenary Band, 455. Okay, there's 2 sides of this, actually. There's 2 sides of this. I mean, yes, the 2 of them made peace, become good sisters and whatnot. They used to be at each other's throat all the time. They grew up. They formed a bond. But it's like, for Norn to go out of her way and create a book that is about Aisha and her agonies of being a genius and running the mercenary band is kind of cute. I'm sorry, it's kind of cute. Girl loves her sister and wants to make a story about her sister. And yeah, it's technically also Norn Grey Rat not only acknowledging that Aisha is smart, she's always acknowledged that, but putting that into words. This might be weird to some people, but it feels significant to me that Norn is willing to put into words that Aisha herself has agonies caused by being a genius. That my sister, who's always been smarter than me, that has always been a genius, she faces issues with that. That causes her issues. The agonies of genius. Norn can be jealous of Aisha, but also acknowledge that it's not all sun and rainbows. I think that's actually really cool. Grey Rat Norn, The Adventures of Rudeus the Great Magician, Zenobia Figurine Company, 470. Now, is that 2 different books right there? Because it has only 1 date. That might be 2 different books. But yeah, either way, there was no doubt in my mind that Norn was going to make a book about Rudeus. Here is a story about how great Rudeus is. It's all the great things he does. And yeah, making one about the figurine company, I guess so. At some point, she's going to make a story about Zenobia as well, because she's actively involved with Zenobia and making the figurine book and all that kind of stuff. Grey Rat Norn, all these are going to be Grey Rat Norn. Grey Rat Norn, Surrounded by Genius, an autobiography of mediocrity. Zenobia Figurine Company. Oh, that's the publisher. Okay, that's a publisher. I get it now. So we had basically Norn Grey Rat published through the Zenobia Figurine Company. She made a book, The Superb Adventure. Then Norn, through the Quagmire Mercenary Band Publishing, made Aisha Grey Rat, The Agonies of Genius. I'm seeing how it's wrote out here. And then Norn, through the Zenoba Figurine Company publishing it, made a book about the adventures of Rudeus the Great Magician. Again, I assume that. Then, Grey Rat Norn, through the Zenoba Figurine Company in 482, made Surrounded by Genius, an autobiography of mediocrity. Did she make a book about herself? A poor girl made a book about herself? And this would be late, too. This would actually be very late. She would have been pretty old at this point. That would have been, like, what, 15 years after she made the Superb Figurine book? She's probably into her late 20s, maybe 30s. The Millis Church Archival Division. Millis Church Minutes. Millis Church 460. The Royal Behavioral Historiographical Institute. The History of the Behavioral Kingdom 420 to 430. The Behavioral Kingdom 433. The Dolia Liniana Activity Log of Ruquag Mercenary Band. Ruquag Mercenary Band. Linnea wrote a book? Wait, what? What? Is this a different Lydia? Is this a different... I think she's always... Yeah, I think she actually was that. No, this would be her. I think they actually did say that she was Liniana. Juliet wrote a book. Zenoba Figure Company Executive Committee Minutes. Oh, this is like a log or something like that. 477. I mean, yeah, again, her being part of the executive group of the company doesn't shock me too much. Silent Stevisar Textbooks of Magic, New Edition. Again, that would be Rudeus. Bradicant, Great Figures and Heroes of the War, Publisher Unknown, 480. Bradicant, Great Figures and Heroes of the World, Publisher Unknown? Interesting. And then finally, recorded by Deputy Head Archivist, Clil Elrond of the Royal Austrian Archives. Very interesting. Very interesting. That was a juicy segment. I didn't find as much in this last bit that I thought I would. It's still cool, though, seeing how much Norn wrote. Again, writing a book about how much her sister has to go through because of her genius is always a cool thing to see that she acknowledged that. Her making a book, still seeing that she's not that great. Liniana making a book, which was really cool. Cool stuff, though. Yeah, it was a really good chapter. I actually love that chapter. The Dossier of Rudius Grey Rat. Probably, I'm sorry to say it, but probably one of my favorite chapters of Volume 26 is literally just some dude trying to figure out what the hell happened with Rudeus. But yeah, let's move on to Afterworld. Excerpt from the Book of Rudeus, Volume 26. I'm wondering if that's 26 of the books that he's making with Silent Seven Star that's in Japanese, or if it's just the in parentheses excerpt from the Book of Rudeus is for this volume 26 of this. Is it this volume 26, or is it volume 26 of his books? Of the, 52 they said? I'm assuming it's of the ones that he made for Nanahoshi. Right. So up until now, I've been just scribbling things down in this diary. Now that I've filled up over 25 books. Yeah, it would have to be his. Okay, never mind. Sorry. Again, this is another one that I didn't really cut down because it's in his words. Now that I've filled up over 25 books and made a bit of a name for myself, I've had this strange idea. Maybe, just maybe, someone might read this. I wrote it all in Japanese, so theoretically, no one of this world should be able to read it. Still, someone with too much free time might decode it, and after I die, someone else who came from the same world as me might read it. I mean, both those things could be correct. I mean, they mentioned it earlier, the idea that they've been decoding it, and they're working on it. Like, they're getting in there. They pulled excerpts from it by decoding it. But yeah, the bigger thing would probably be somebody else from, Japan or our world that knows Japanese would go over there. I feel pretty bad if someone actually put all the effort into decoding it. These when there's nothing of all importance written in them. That's the funny thing is, and this is a total tangent here, but that's technically the same thing as us when we're actually pulling up like ruins in different lands, and we're like going through the process of like decoding things, and we're making some big crazy thing out of some things on a wall. Like, look at this. This was showing like ancient aliens, and it's probably like back then these dudes were just like, hey, I want to draw something. What is that? I don't know. I just created a weird monster. It doesn't look cool. And we're over here going, oh, does this mean that aliens arrived? It's just some dude like drawing crap on the wall. I mean, that's like if something happened to our civilization and 30 years later on, people are going to be looking at like possibly data on hard drive, somehow pulling the data from it and then going, what the heck is these pictures of like random stuff that keeps repeating itself? Like there's a bunch of these same pictures, but there's just certain characters different. It's they called a meme? What is this called? People are going to think we're crazy. Oh, that we're a society that's always on something. Anyways, sorry. But I mean, that's just what diaries are like, right? Whatever purpose someone decodes it for, it won't go out into the world until after I'm dead. I'd like to record for later generations that Dragon God Orid wasn't a bad person. And then there's that other thing. Okay, so as I've written a few times in these diaries, I'm not originally from this world. I died in another world and was reborn here. I've decided not to write my name from my previous life. Yeah, that's the other interesting thing. Never bring it up. Very interesting. If the person reading this knew the person I was in my old world, they might get the wrong idea. Still, I might have a previous life. But aside from that, I'm not actually special. If you decoded this diary and you're reading it, you'll know that I lived an ordinary life in this world. Sure. Sure. I didn't choose to be reborn. And I guess an ordinary life as in, like, I didn't have any, like, one-up. Like, I didn't have a special boost other than what he uses for his magic and whatnot. I didn't choose to be reborn, and in the end, I never found out what caused it. No big deal. I just lived the best life I could, so that if I died the next day, I'd have no regrets. That's what's important. Yep. You might scoff at that, whoever it is who's reading this diary. You may be thinking, he was just lucky with where he was born, or easy for this guy to say when he's blessed with talent. Or maybe you've seen my portrait, so you put it down to my pretty face. I mean, as I wrote in here the other day, Cliff told me that his classmates said something like that. They said he had an unfair advantage because he'd been born into good circumstances. I mean, anybody that's jealous of somebody else is always going to find some reason. Like, oh, they're successful because they had this. Or, oh, they pulled it off because they have this. There's always going to be a because of this. There's always going to be an excuse for somebody else pulling off something you didn't. Yeah, there's legitimate reasons for some people getting a boost over somebody else, but it doesn't always come down to just one aspect in a lot of cases. He said he felt really uncomfortable about it. That made me think about my own privileges. To be honest, my own upbringing was pretty cushy. Yeah, I mean, compared to most people in this world, even without anything else in mind, yes, Rudeus being in a family that is technically, even if he did leave it, a noble family, he got a huge one up. He got a huge boost up. Even if he didn't get anything directly from Paul, connections through Paul got himself a chance to work with, Edis and all this other stuff. He rarely called out the name of the Grey Rats and used it as a tool, but he technically did. Paul, my father, was a scumbag when it came to women, but he wasn't a bad person. The real scumbag stuff was how he was caught cheating, then lied about it, even though there was damning evidence, then playing dumb, then lashed out like he was the victim. If I cheated, then tried to pull something like that, Edis would beat me up. Sylphie would hate me, and Roxy would have nothing but contempt. I'd end up losing everything. Yeah, I think, again, at the very end of all these volumes, Paul was probably one of the best stories of all the side characters. I mean, Etoph was getting real damn close. And there's a lot of other characters like Roxy getting into her and her life and her child and the insecurities she has. Edis's whole journey up in the north was fantastic. Cliff, Zenoba, all those stories were great, but I think Paul definitely did kind of gut punch. But I don't know if it all beats Zenith. But Zenith is more of an aspect of it being personal for me, which I get into now. Geez, that's a scary thought. I couldn't have asked for a better mother than Zenith. She was young when her mind failed. But when you consider what it's usually like to care for a bedridden person, by comparison, it wasn't so bad. Yeah, just seeing how, I don't know when it might have changed, if it ever did change. Just the fact that she's able to move around all that kind of stuff. They got it pretty well. Plus, again, there is a way of communicating to her. It's not as if she's completely closed off. We've already proven that she does have a vision of what's going on. I did end up pretty much entirely handing her off to Lilia and Sylphie. Yeah, thanks. But compared to my previous life, where I wasn't able to do anything for my parents, I think I did all right by her. Yeah, I guess making sure that she's supplied and everything. It's not like she can be there all the time, but yeah, one up point from your previous life where you didn't do anything. You didn't even go to their funeral. The point is, I was born to parents who love me. I can't say we wanted for nothing, but at the very least, we didn't have any debt, and my parents weren't fighting over money every day. That was kind of lucky. Yeah. Also, I had talent for magic. I had a leg up from the knowledge of my past life, and a vast pool of mana from the plus aspect. It's thanks to both of these that I excelled at unvoiced magic. Even if you searched the world over, you'd have a hard time finding anyone who could shoot a stone cannon harder and faster than me. I don't know. I don't think we ever had Orsted give his example. Well, I like to chalk it up as my own hard work. I'm pretty sure that was gifts I was born with. Just luck, really. Yeah, to the very end, this dude cannot give himself any credit. This dude cannot give himself any credit. So far as my looks go, I reckon I'm better off now than I was. But for all that, I still hadn't had many women take an interest in me just for my face. On the flip side, I had been treated unfairly because people didn't like my face before. Soldat, for example, said he didn't like the look of me. He might have been talking about my expression, though. Expressions are important, too. Yeah, he was mostly talking about the look on his face. Most people aren't repelled by my face. No, just your smile. At any rate, more luck. I don't doubt it's that good luck that gave me the motivation to try hard. Still, I wonder, what if I had been even better off? How would it have turned out if, say, I'd been born an Osran aristocrat, never wanting for money or women or anything else? I know I'm a bit of a perv, and there's been many times where the perviness motivated me to work hard. Not having those sort of things for all those years is what allowed me to appreciate them. It's kind of a good point here. Yeah, good question here. I think a better question mark would have been for him if he was transported into Mushoku Tensei world, this new world. His actual body, his older body, chubby and all, if that body was transported into this world. And yeah, maybe the world itself alters so that people see him as part of their family. I don't think he would have much motivation. I think it's because he had sort of a full life reset that he was able to build from that foundation up to try different. It's like he says, I'm going to try different in this life. This is going to be my new life where I'm going to try this new. It's because he had that reset. But yes, technically right here, and this would have been way before Rudeus meets with the man god for the last time. Again, we have the whole segment where Rudeus goes to the man god after dying and establishes all this stuff. Back here, way back here when he's doing the diary, he's establishing the same mindset as he gives during that time. The idea that if I was given a comfortable life, I would have probably been lazy. Right here, yeah. If I was given to an Osran aristocrat, have plenty of money and everything, not wanting anything else, yeah, it would have been a lot different. Again, because of what happened with him with the displacement incident and the man god coming after him, that's what pushed him. It was the man god that gave him the reason for why he went out and met so many people and fought so hard and had so many struggles and grew through all those things. It pushed him to mature. It pushed him to get strength. It pushed him to be a better person. It is the hardships that mold us to be what we are. And in a lot of cases, a lot of the hardships can mold us to appreciate things more. I learned to appreciate things a lot more. Yeah, not having those sort of things for all those years is what allowed me to appreciate them. Really cool. If it'd been easy for me to get with women, if I'd had women throwing themselves at me, and all without having to lift a finger, would I have seen the value in it? I mean, you technically did, and you turned down a lot of it. You technically had a lot of opportunities, but you turned them down. I mean, how many times Ariel was going after him? Linneum Persona. And again, technically, because of his experiences, he was able to decline those. Because he had experience with love, he was able to decline those things. And yes, technically because manhood wasn't working. I wonder if I would. Again, technically him having the ED made him appreciate not having it more. I wonder if I wouldn't have just gotten bored early on and stopped making any effort to making women like me. Yes. I think power pollutes the mind into not, in a lot of cases, appreciating true love and not really understanding what it means to earn something. I think that's a reason why a lot of celebrities, once people know who they really are, suddenly don't like them. Because what we see with celebrities in a lot of cases is what the media portrays them as being, what the movie portrays them as being. Yeah, it's a famous actor for a romance series. God, this guy knows love. This guy is a lady slayer. This guy, doki moments. I love all these scenes where they're in love or whatever. And then finally when they meet the actual person, it's not the person they're acting. Of course, it's a different person. Again, the idea of not putting people on pedestals, never meet your celebrities, never meet your idols, is the idea that eventually you realize these people have a lot of things given to them. They are celebrities for a long time, and they don't know what it's like to actually have love. They don't know what real love is, or they've been given things for so long, they're kind of dirtbags. Same goes for magic. I've been working my ass off practicing every single day. My training looks tedious from the outside, but it's because I kept going with it like that I can now wield magic with a higher level of precision. What if the first time I picked up a magic textbook, I've been able to cast not just beginner tier magic or advanced tier, but even god tier magic? Would I have gone on training hard after that? I mean, he technically hit Saint tier very quickly, but I think it's through that experience that he gained a lot of other things. Yes, technically, if he first picked up that book inside their house, and yes, had Saint tier, he would have never had to meet Roxy. He would have never pushed himself. That's what he's sort of implying here. What if I had opened that book in that room and god tier magic? He'd probably destroy... he probably would have destroyed all their house and everything, their entire region, but yeah, it technically does make sense here. I think people find value and strive for the things they can't have, the things that don't come easy. Well, yeah, because if you don't have to strive for it, you just have it. And if you don't have it, you have to strive for it. It's a little weird. It's a little weird comment there, but I get it. In the end, we all have to play the hand that we're dealt, but there will always be something in our hand that we're unhappy with. Yeah, true. Someone else will be envious of one of your cards, while you yourself are unable to see its worth. Yep. I know I sound like I'm bragging, but I do have a past life. My home in my past life was even better off than Paul's, and as far as talent goes, if I hadn't given up, I could have made something of myself. He's able to acknowledge this now. That's interesting. I mean, he's technically in other ways acknowledged this idea that, yes, technically back in my previous life, I was given everything. He was in that room and all he had to do was slam his fist on the wall and get whatever he wanted. He was in that room and he had everything he needed. Food was always brought to him. There was nothing expected of him. He was given internet. He was given entertainment. It's the niceties of our current modern life that we sort of take for granted. The idea that the person that's in a air-conditioned home with access to the internet, endless entertainment, all this stuff does not acknowledge just how easy they have it. Modern technologies and everything at their disposal. He had a lot more than what Paul was able to give him in a little house out in the boonies village. Not to say that what Paul did in order to support him was not great, but he had it kind of good in his previous life. Not that it made him happy. Not saying that he didn't have reasons for not liking his experience. But even he himself right here is acknowledging, I could have done something with what I had in my previous life. I had the opportunities. I just didn't do it. I could have made something of myself. I'm probably better looking now, but if I'd exercised and slimmed down a bit and groomed my hair and my eyebrows, I wouldn't have looked half bad. Looking back, I had way more advantage back then than I have in this life. Again, yeah. With modern life and the amenities and the opportunities and the technology and everything, he had plenty of opportunities. He just didn't. And it's cool that he acknowledges that now. Despite all that, despite the privilege I had, I stayed a garbage person. When I died, that was what I regretted. So even if I hadn't been born in a peaceful village like Buena, even if it had been slums of a conflict zone, or if I had been abused by my parents, or if when I first opened a magic textbook, I hadn't managed to whip up so much as a water bomb, I feel like I'd still tried my best. Interesting. He regretted his previous life so much. Stayed a garbage human being. Even though I had plenty of opportunities, I stayed this, didn't achieve anything. I wasn't in a good place. I regret it so much that in this new life, even if I wasn't in a peaceful village, even if I was in the slums of conflict zone, abused by my parents, even if I didn't open up a textbook and produce a water bomb, I feel like I still would have tried my best. Interesting. I doubt my life would have been as happy as this one. I might have resented the world more. Yeah, I think like if Paul was abusive, it would have made at least a nastier perspective on the world. I think because it was Paul and Zenith and everybody that surrounded him, Roxy, Sylphie, because he was presented with joys right off the bat, it allowed him to appreciate the new life. It made him want to strive for it more. It was at that dinner table that he said, I want to do it this time. I want to do it this time. He liked the new life. Even like later on when it gets to the whole thing with Nanahoshi, that she's the stark contrast to him. She hated it. Everything about it. This world rejects me. Where Rudeus is like, no, I like this new world. I like what I have here. It's so much better than what I had before. But if nothing else, I think I would have acted more than I did in my previous life. I think I would have lived with the desperation of a drowning man. I'm sure my life would have been worth more than my previous one. If anything, even if a truck didn't hit me, and I went on living in my original world without getting reincarnated, If I'd only had a bit of luck, I might have been able to apply myself. Well, okay, it wouldn't have been that easy. I was an incredible sulk back then. So it took a jumbo-size helping of luck that let me reincarnate to finally get me moving. And yep, it kind of turns out that way. A massive amount of luck that just hits you right there. What I'm trying to say is that circumstances are all relative. And sometimes good circumstances actually means having a few things that seem like disadvantages. That is a really interesting way of putting it. And I kind of like that idea. It's good to have some disadvantages, because if you have all advantages, you're never going to want to improve or have challenges. Challenges are what make you what you are. It's a very interesting perspective to have here. I'm not here to tell you not to blame things on the way things are for you. I know I've been privileged. I try to remember there are people in terrible circumstances out there. I don't mean to pretend to know what it's like. All I'm saying is that whether you get good hand or a bad one, if you want to be satisfied with your life, you have to live life as hard and fully as you can. Good statement. Good statement. It's very important to realize that no matter how bad you have it, somebody else has it worse. And that's not to say that you can't find that as a struggle. Even if you are the most privileged person in the world, you are still going to have things that you struggle with. Even if you are born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you have a family that are billionaires, you're still going to have problems. But everybody's going to have those problems. What it comes down to is, in the end, are you satisfied with your life? In the end, are you satisfied? If you're not, push. Keep pushing. Be satisfied. Work hard. It's not like those classmates of Cliff's were that badly off. I guess they were unlucky with their parents, but they had enough drive to get to school through their own efforts. Yeah, true. And to work towards their goals. And it's painted out as if the university is a great step up for anybody, like whatever role you're getting into, like especially merchants and whatnot. Anyway, for my part, I've given my all to my life in this world. Naturally, I'm going to continue to do so. Maybe to others, my all seems a little shallow and unserious. Don't other people's lives always seem that way? Yeah, technically, reading through this, yeah, there's points in where I think that Rudeus is too focused on something stupid, and he's not more focused on something more important. Like, I made the joke about it, and I was technically serious, and we don't get the whole picture there. But yes, technically, after the battle with Geese, what does it highlight that he does immediately when he gets home? He gets home, he gets to see Lucy. That was great, little moment there. He gets in the house, sees Zenith, Lilia, and it basically from there cuts to go to bed. The next morning, he gets up and he goes have Whoopi. My priority, I would feel, would be just to look at my family, check how my kids are doing. Those are the things that would have been important to me. So yeah, I get it. I get times where I'm like, it's shallow and unserious. But I still acknowledge that he gave his all. It's not my life. Don't other people's lives always seem that way? Yeah. There's a lot, again, plenty of times I see that he's unserious about things. And no matter what anyone else says about you, I'm not going to change your life. So why care about it, you know? So hey, if you're reading this, live your life to the fullest. Ugh, we're getting preachy, aren't we here? We're getting real preachy here, aren't we? I must be getting old. I guess it's happened. I've become a dad. Right, that's enough talk about circumstances. It turned out to be a bit of a lecture. Now, I wonder who decoded my language. Maybe a scholar or something. Or a magician. Expecting some amazing magical secret concealed within the pages of my diary. Either way, sorry for the lack of amazing secrets. I've said pretty much all that I want to know about magic to Roxy. It should be all available for you to learn at the Renoa Magic University. Or the Osran Institute of Magic. There's a side of me that almost wonders if, like, one of his children will be the one that decoded, or Norn. It does get into the idea that guy that was doing the dossier technically looked into him. If I were to give one piece of advice for those who follow in my footsteps, it would be whether you want to learn voice casting, unvoice casting, casting with magic circles, or whatever happened to be the hot thing in your day, then reader, you must practice. You cast the same spell over and over again until your head's spinning. Then when you're resting, you think of clever ways to use it. You devote yourself fully. If you do that, even if you're not a once-in-a-generation genius, you'll be skilled enough to earn respect from your peers. Right, one more thing. If you're thinking about translating this diary to offer it up to a ruler of some country, don't. I get it. Translating the language of a different world is impressive, and you want your success to be praised. You want appropriate compensation for your efforts. Thing is, there's some stuff written in here that looks bad for the Osram royal family in particular. There's no way they'll stand for claims like that. The Offspring Queen was the dragon god Orsh's puppet. It's their prestige in the line, you know? Ariel might settle for locking you up, but I can't guarantee her descendants will spare your life. I guess if all the nations that appear in this diary have disappeared clean off the face of the world, then you could do what you like. There, right there, makes me believe that this diary is implying, again, because it said volume 26, that it's implying that this is the 26th volume. Right here, this is the 26th volume. It's a fourth wall breaking that these novel series are all Rudeus's writing. These are all Rudeus's journal, which I've never got that indication before. Truthfully, I've never gotten that feeling before, mainly because Rudeus has no idea what other people are doing, and he's writing about them. He wrote everything that happened with Body Gotti going down into the labyrinth. He doesn't know about that. There's a lot of perspective chapters. But I guess it could be the idea that any perspective chapters, which people have said a lot are like light novel original, that all the perspective chapters are not technically a part of this book that Rudeus is writing right here, the journal. But it's still cool, I guess. I guess it's still, but I've never gotten the feeling this is a journal. I've never gotten that feeling. There's too much perspectives of other characters. Huh. I suppose if that much time has passed, you might be a historian. If so, I hope that you'll reference this extensively as an example of an ordinary family in this period. Only, I did use my knowledge from my past life to reinvent some uncommon gadgets. So, don't rely on that too much. And yeah, one more thing. Just in case whoever's reading this is someone from the same world as me, if, unlike me, you want to go home, I'll give you a piece of advice. There is a way to return to your old world. Follow in the footsteps of Silent 7-Star. Oh yeah, and if you ever dream of a white space with some pixelated asshole giving you advice, hard pass. He's a liar, got it? Rudeus. Over and out. And that's legitimately the last statements made by Rudius Grey Rat in this novel series. I will admit, there's a side of me that almost gets a little frustrated, the idea that the way that it's set up in this volume, it jumps around too much with Rudeus. I'm not a huge fan of how he basically went from, like, he returns home from the battle in Berhil Kingdom, and then it jumps forward to he's in his deathbed and he dies, and then it jumps back and he's 34, and then it jumps forward and he's dead again, and then it jumps back and he's in his diary again. It's like it's too many times of him saying goodbye, basically. There's literally like 5 different goodbyes in this dang volume. It's like, just let it do it once. I get what he's doing, though, and I do think it's kind of clever that he did have the whole perspective given by the man god. It is sort of interesting in that regard, but it still is kind of, it's like too many goodbyes. Too many goodbyes. But that gets us to the final chapter, which is Epilogue, Prologue 0. This is where it all begins. Who would have thought it all began with a typical isekai? In the year 500 of the Armored Dragon God era, there lived a girl called the Blessed Child of Restoration. There was no life in her eyes. Ever since she was born, they had been empty, save for despair. The adults around her found her uncanny and kept their distance. The girl knew what fate had in store for her. She had known since before birth. Only to say before birth is misleading. She had not known before her birth, true birth. For this girl had been reborn many times. Again and again, she had repeated the same life. Again and again, she had repeated a life with minute differences each time. Different lives, albeit only slightly. And they all ended the same way. Her life was always fixed. There was never any great upheavals. And those lives always came to the same end. The end was death. She died. It's kind of interesting that she is put through a loop as well. It kind of makes you wonder if she has some sort of connection with Orid or something. It's always great to have these chapters where it's answering a bunch of stuff, but ends up just making more questions. No one living creature may escape death, but her death was a particularly awful one. After being manipulated as a tool by her country, she was captured and murdered by the enemy nation. She was like a toy fought over by children. Sometimes she was brutally forced upon. Sometimes she was eaten alive by monsters. Sometimes she was bound and thrown into water. The girl died in suffering and despair. To her, life was a road that ended in despair. Every day was nothing but another step closer to the executioner's block. She was without hope. That sucks. That sucks. No matter what, constantly death, 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 death. And having no strength to kind of fight against it. Again, this sort of gives me a lot of vibes of the other blessed child that we always experience. Blessed child of Millis. And the idea that she has no power herself. She is just a tool. Brought out, used, abused, thrown away. Over and over again. The girl had a power. She could reverse time for any object by, at most, a single day. With this power, she restored broken things. She could even bring back people from the dead. A single day. But even the power to bring the dead back to life just for a single day was enough for the blessed child to be pressured into service for the nation. The king kept her all to himself. Yeah. I mean, if I was the king, I'd probably do the same thing. I wouldn't mistreat her, but I would probably do the same thing. I mean, my assumption based on how it's wrote out is that, yes, the capability here is that, yes, if the king were to go out and be stabbed or poisoned to death, she could reverse him by a day, and then he could avoid that death. Not that, if he grows old to the point where he's going to croak in a day, it's ever going to stop. He's going to keep dying the next day, and then she has to use it again. But yeah, seems incredibly powerful. Her power to reverse a single day freed the king from injury and illness. Mysteriously, she could not stop him from aging. But this was of little importance to the king. The girl had known 3 versions of the king, though his name and appearance never changed. There were small variances in his personality and his conduct. Every time she died, and a new nightmare began, the king she served changed a little. Another seeing these slight changes might have praised the king for his wisdom, or condemned him as a fool. None of this mattered to the girl. There was no difference in how the king treated her. To her, the kings all blended to the same monster. Interesting. And now this is my brain sort of tying this to Orsted, and the idea that Orsted is in a loop too, that she's in a loop. I mean, yeah, I think they might get into it. I forget. The assumption here is that whenever she dies, the power just kind of activates and she goes back. Like she is reversing time for herself every time she dies. Not that she likes her life and that she wants to repeat it. It's just that her power is automatically activating and she's restored and doing this again. But my mind can't help but try to connect the 2 individuals that we've experienced in the story that has a death loop aspect to them. Could it be that Orsted himself is triggering her to reset? Or she's in the loops that he's in, and even though he does fail and it resets, she still has her moment where it tries and resets back to this time? Because the whole king thing here is sort of what makes me believe that. Every time that she loops, things are kind of different in each one of them. It makes me believe that these are different timelines that Orsted is in as well. So this one where the king's, is seen as being more full of wisdom, that's the one loop where Orsted tried this one thing, and then she experienced the aftermath of that, but then she dies, and then it resets back. Okay, now this is the loop where Orsted pulled this off, and so things are a little bit different up here. Either way, it kind of makes me also wonder if Orsted's power is partially from this blessed child. Like there is some aspect of this blessed child that her power that Orsted is utilizing, or at least was utilized in the creation of Orsted and his ability to loop. It's interesting. It's very interesting. Again, I get answers, but I'm still going to create more questions. The power that made the blessed child brought her no happiness. She could not turn back her own time, nor could she use her power for her own purposes. All it did was shackle her to the palace that served as her prison. Again, I think that she is technically subconsciously using it. And then she died. She was kept like an animal in a corner of a palace, meeting slightly different people every time until she finally perished. Sometimes her power was insufficient, and she incurred the wrath of the king. Sometimes another nation invaded the kingdom, and then she was taken prisoner. Sometimes the kingdom was overrun by demons who slaughtered them all. Her life faded away in misery, and then she returned to the beginning. She started again from the birth in a remote, rural corner of the kingdom. After spending her early days enduring the adults' disgust, she was taken to the palace, where she would ultimately die yet again. Yeah, when I got to this part, I'm like, well, can she keep it a secret? What? Can she keep it a secret? Why can't she keep it a secret? The girl tried to escape her fate in the beginning. She hid her powers so that she could stay with her mother and father. It did no good. For some reason, just before her 5th birthday, soldiers came from the palace and took her away with them. She tried to run away from the village before the soldiers came, but that too was futile. She was either killed by a monster or captured by bandits or kidnappers. Who she was sold to next varied, but she ended up in the palace without fail. Fate dragged her back to the palace like an antlion's trap, crushed her hope, then murdered her. Curious. Now, I think I seem to remember that there was a blessed child that could deactivate powers, if I remember correctly. I don't remember if they ever mentioned a blessed child that could find blessed children, but this makes me believe that something is trying for this to happen. And this could be destiny. This could be simply, this is her destiny. Her destiny forces her to have to be there. She has to be there. So something's going to happen that forces her to be there. It could also be, yeah, another force that knows what's going on is trying to manipulate it to happen. Somebody knows where she's at, and somebody is going to use her every single time. The man god in a route where he wins against Orsted. It's going to come to this whole segment where it's forced this to happen. She's too dangerous. Get her here. Get her used and killed. Something, and it could be destiny, could be forcing this to happen. It sucks. It sucks. It was hell. An eternal, unceasing hell cycle that utterly destroyed her. She ceased to feel anything. She followed the king's orders. Her face was devoid of expression as a machine. 100 years passed, then 200. Or was it 1,000, 2,000, or perhaps 10, or 20,000? She no longer remembered how many times she had died or how long she had lived. Her memory was perpetually hazy, and she couldn't recall a single instance of joy. Dang. Can we get some happiness for this girl at the end? I mean, she technically does find a little bit of beacon, but damn. The moment of her murder was always crystal clear. Perhaps it was instinct, some pure animal urge within her that clung to life, that recorded the memory of her murder as something to be avoided. Alas, the result was that her whole life was blotted out by her own deaths. She no longer recalled anything else. Nothing but a chain of memories of deaths. So this is implying the idea that nothing is of note in her life. It's just the pain of her death. So like her memories are just nothing but a chain of deaths. It's like everything else just get blotted out. Jeez. I think this is the most tragic character of the entire story. Thousands, 2,000, perhaps 20,000 years of death. Immersed in an endless stream of death, the girl made one wish. She wished with all of her heart, I can't bear this anymore. Somebody help me. In that moment, the laws of the world shifted. Things in her next life had changed. She was born in a provincial village she couldn't even name and was taken to the palace. She obeyed the king's every whim and used her power day in and day out. None of this had changed. But when she was 10, something different happened. Something that had never happened before. It was her 10th birthday. As though to celebrate the occasion, the girl was taken away. She was taken beneath the palace to a space with a vast magic circle. The girl hadn't known there was such a magic circle in the palace, for she had never been allowed to walk freely within it. Several dozen adults stood around the magic circle. They held staffs and wore black robes, hoods covering their faces. Now this is interesting. Before I get too far, again, this is one of those things where it's like, this chapter literally just goes, Andrew, chill out, it's not that deep. It's as simple as, it's sort of playing this out like this is a typical isekai story. The kingdom needs a hero. They summon somebody else, and oh yeah, Rudeus just happens to get into it. But this segment right here just creates more questions. This girl, who's a blessed child, who has the power to turn things back, it seems to imply that she has much more power than just that. Everybody believes that she has just the power to reset a day. And that's all. They even get into the idea that she technically has more power than she actually lets on. Like, they never really looked into it. They just assume, well, she has the power to turn things back a day. Don't look into it any further. Just use it for that. They don't get the breadth of her ability, how much potential that she has. So there could be an aspect here, as she getting to this last point, she's like, please, something change. And something changes. Through her wish, it's implying here she went through 20,000 years, possibly 20,000 years of nothing being different. I die the same way. I might see a different face. The king might act a little differently every time I end up here and I die. I'm dying over and over again. 20,000 years of death. Approximately 1,000 loops. At least 1,000 loops. Maybe way more than that, depending on how young she dies. Suddenly, she makes a wish and things change. That implies to me she changed something. It could have just been by sheer luck this ended up being the one that they do something different. Quite possibly. Just like for Orsted. He's going through so many loops and then, poop, there's a Rudeus. There's a displacement incident and a Rudeus shows up. Something external happened. That's why I think here. Something external happened. Was it her? Was it somebody that heard her cry and changed something for her? Curious. The knowledge she had gleaned from her eternal hell told her that these people were magicians. But what would happen to her next, she did not know. She knew little about magic and magic circles. She had never had the opportunity to learn such things in her hellish prison. The girl was bound to the magic circle. Her eyes were empty as always. Something new had happened, but it failed to stir her heart at all. She would still die in the end. No matter what happened along the way, nothing would change. This sense of resignation crowded out everything else. Yeah, despite something new happening, it doesn't change. It's not going to change. The ritual began. The magic circle relentlessly drew the mana from her body. Blessed children held an inconceivable volume of mana within their bodies. It was a different stripe of mana to that which was used in magic and swordscraft. What? 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 Hello? Random info drop here? I don't think they've ever implied that before. A different type than used for magic and swordcraft. I mean, I guess it makes sense because I think we've sort of implied the idea of like somebody like Zenoba not being very apt to magic. Yeah, technically, I mean, yeah. Oh my gosh. And yeah, they technically did imply through Zenoba that he had no ability to use magic. He tried. He wanted to make earth magic so bad. He wanted to do the earth magic so bad so he could do it. He had to get Julie. This implies that he technically does have mana. It's just, it's different. So he could never really technically utilize it. Which means that if he could have ever figured out how to tap into that type of mana, he would have been able to use earth magic. Interesting. And maybe that's why he was never able to use magic. Yes, it's partly because of his age. He started magic way too late. But there's a side of me that kind of wonders if it's because he can't really have a mana pool because it's taken up by that. Interesting. Random lore drop in the last chapter of the freaking last volume. It was a different type of mana to that used in magic and swordcraft, and in theory, it could not typically have been used for magic circle like this one. Was it chance then that the magic circle was drawing out her mana? No, this magic circle had been created for a purpose. It was designed to be activated using the mana of a blessed child of restoration, who had made it. Though they were out of the girl's sight, the architect was present at the ritual. She observed the magic circle, looking only a little less bored than the girl. So it's female. So the architect of the circle itself is a female. And again, this is somebody that's showing up right after she makes this wish and this desire. And again, this is sort of ending the circle here. I would have assumed it was going to be Nanahoshi from the very beginning, but I don't think it really indicates that there's like a connection made. Like he shows up and suddenly she's excited. The ritual was a success. The magic circle blazed with light. Light in a prism of 7 colors. The light of the summoning. Then, when the light died away, there was a boy standing in the middle of the circle. It worked. We did it. The kingdom is saved. While the magician celebrated, the boy looked around at his surroundings in amazement. Then, his gaze turned to the girl with empty eyes, who sat on the ground in front of him. Could you tell me what this is? I was just with Nana and Kuro. Huh? The language he spoke was unknown to all there, and yet somehow the girl understood. Perhaps it was because her own mana had been used, or perhaps it was because she connected to his presence here. Interesting that, yes, she seems to communicate to him, implying some sort of connection to him because of her mana being used. Again, creating more questions than answers. There's so much answer to this chapter and so much questions created. Again, I don't think it's Nanahoshi because she would have immediately ran over to him. He's summoned alone. Who made the circle? I guess I'm just left to assume that it's not anybody that we actually know right now. It could be a descendant of Rudeus, somebody that was actively involved in what Nanahoshi and Rudeus were doing when it comes to the future projects. But interesting. Oh, my name is Shinohara Akito. How about you? I am the blessed child of restoration. Blessed? I want to know your name. He does the same thing as Rudeus does. Can I get a name? Edis too. Can I get a name? Can we get a name? The girl realized that in every iteration of her personal hell, and in particular, after she came to the palace, no one asked her name. A blessed child had no name. It's so interesting, again, because I think Zenoba was the only oddity out of all those. Like, the blessed child of Milis was the best child. This girl is the blessed child. Zenoba, at least people knew him as Prince Zerone. But again, that was probably because of his position. He was a prince. If he wasn't a prince, they probably wouldn't have given him a name. Perhaps if they were royalty, an exception might be made. Literally said right there. But as a rule, blessed children had their names taken from them. From that point on, they were only ever referred to as blessed child. The girl was no exception. But while usually, blessed children had their name taken before they could learn them, the girl remembered her name. She had to live it over and over again. She remembered it precisely because she had died so many times. It was a name that her mother and father had given her. Lydia. Lydia? That's a nice name. The boy smiled, and the girl's heart sang. Doki doki. Doki doki. The girl felt something had changed. The king released her from her duties as blessed child. Instead, she was made the boy's interpreter. After a mage knight joined them as a bodyguard, the three of them wandered freely throughout the palace. Lydia, what is that? The boy from another world asked her about everything, about the world, about how they lived, about the people in it. Despite dying so many times, the girl knew nothing. He asked, what is that? That's a magical implement. When you put magic into it, fire comes out in the end. I wonder if they're going to the forest to drive out the monsters. The girl, knowing nothing, asked the knight, and the knight answered. The magic knight, who was said to be a genius, looked half asleep, but answered all of her questions. Unlike the girl, she knew everything. I'm sorry, the whole half asleep look, knowing everything, magic knight, that makes me believe that might be a descendant. And this makes sense. Sort of. This sort of makes sense. This is why I hate time, by the way. This is why I hate time. This is the only thing that I hate about time is the idea of having a single route where everything happens in it, and it gets really muddy. That is, if it's a single timeline and things are changing as they're supposed to be changed, the paradox starts happening. But this sort of makes me wonder if this is a timeline that is so different than the other timelines, because this is the timeline where she is going to send him back, and thus it triggers a happening. And the happening is Rudeus. This is the triggering that's going to happen that causes eventually Rudeus is going to end up here. Thus, this could be a timeline where his descendants are here. A genius who looks half asleep makes me believe this is one of Rudeus and Roxy's children. And thus they'd be around for so long, they'd be a genius, obviously, because, spawn of Roxy, they're going to be a genius. This makes me think this is one of Roxy's children. Like, way in the future. But yeah, the complication here is, like, them being there, and that means that this has already happened, thus Rudeus is already here, thus why does the next thing happen? What's supposed to be undone by the fact that Rudeus gets pulled in as well, along with Nanahoshi. Anyways. Oh, so it's like a flamethrower. Come to think of it, there's a lot of tree monsters in this world, aren't there? Have you ever seen one, Lilia? This dude is oddly accepting of this whole situation. He is literally this is the actual protagonist of an isekai. Is him. He is so nonchalant about all this crap. Several times they swooshed. I can't picture it. No, wait. Actually, I've seen them in movies. Movies? Yeah. A movie is her life as an interpreter was nothing like her life before. Everything was fresh. Every time the boy learned something new about the world, he smiled his easy smile. And every time, the girl's heart sang. Nanahoshi, this girl's sneaking in. Nanahoshi getting NTR'd by the blessed child. At first, she thought nothing would change. She thought everything was over for her. But she could dream about the stories the boy sometimes told her about his world. When the knight answered the boy's questions, she felt her world expanding. She learned the world was unimaginably vast and full of all sorts of people she had never known. A little while after the boy came, she realized that her food had taste. Her ears opened up to the chirping of the birds when she woke in the morning, and to enjoy the warmth of the sun. She felt alive. She believed her stint in hell was over. The boy had come to save her. He had come to pull her out of this long, hellish cycle. She had been born to meet him. Now her life would begin. This fate, she thought. The boy was so strong and so gentle, and such a support to her, that it seemed true. But fate betrayed her. War engulfed the kingdom. The girl knew that every time this war came, it swept her up and she died. She knew it better than anyone, but there was things that she didn't know. That the boy had been summoned to win the war. Oops. It's like typical isekai moment here. It's like, well, okay, is he going to have some sort of power that he's not supposed to have? Because if he's like Nanahoshi, he ain't going to do no good. All implies that this guy was brought here with his body, like Nanahoshi, he's not going to be very useful. That the kingdom's prophet had advised that they summon a champion from another world and have him fight for them. And again, they've already implied before that there is power to some from other worlds, but it was sort of like taboo, restricted. And I had a theory around the idea that only people of other worlds would have the ability to do it, like it's a rule upon the world itself. But it doesn't seem like that would be the case. It technically doesn't make sense. It could just be that people said that was the case, that there was a rule against it. The rules of the world was against it. And I think that Hoshi sort of implied the idea that could be an aspect of cause and effect, so to speak, equal and opposite reaction. And that the kingdom had taken the prophet's advice and spent 10 years summoning the boy. They were now at the point of no return. The girl knew nothing, and the boy fought. He did not know war, however. The people of the kingdom knew that the boy did not know how to fight. Yet still, they sent him on the battlefield. They clad him in armor, put a sword in his hand, and placed him on the army's front line. This is what they had summoned him for. And the boy died. He was mercilessly cut down on the battlefield. As he stood there on trembling legs, an enemy general cut off his head with a single blow, and he died. The enemy general took his head, so it was only his body that came back to the girl. The people of the kingdom, when they saw his dead body, only sighed and muttered in disgust that, in the end, their champion from another world had been useless. They had been fools to trust the prophet's ravings. There's like so much to this that I want to talk about. One, mad creds to Refugin of basically creating the most realistic summoning of a isekai character ever. The idea that this is literally what would happen. Every single one of these damn isekai stories, it's like you get summoned to another world and they have the cheat skill that seems super useless, but then they find out that it's the most overpowered ability ever. Or it's they have overpowered abilities and everybody goes sugoi sugoi. This is literally what would happen if somebody got isekai to another world. This is the legit most realistic depiction of what would happen if some other fantastical world would bring some modern life person to another world. This is what would happen. Welcome, hero. We summoned you from another world. You will be our savior. Please come to the battlefield. Dead. That's literally it. Not even a chapter-long story. The most realistic isekai ever. Summoned by a kingdom to save it. Dead. That's it. That's it. But no, nobody wants to write that because it would be a single chapter story. I feel so bad for this dude too. Like Nanahoshi's back here. She's upset about the fact that she's being rejected by the world. Rudeus is having to, learn magic and dealing with the man god after him. This poor guy gets summoned in and just one shot. And it seemed like he was enjoying it too. Like he's just going around asking questions about things and everything. And he just gets pushed onto the battlefield and dies. I feel so bad for him. The girl embraced the boy's corpse and tried desperately to restore him, but it was futile. Already more than a day had passed since his death, and he was beginning to rot. The girl's power was of no use here. She wept and screamed, asking why she must always suffer so. Why was fate so cruel to her alone? She wept, but not only out of grief. She felt like fate was toying with her, laughing at her for trying, when no matter what she did, she was doomed. She was overcome with a sense of powerlessness. Then, the kingdom fell. The girl was captured, and as she had every time before, died in the depths of despair. Unlike every time before, the girl made a wish. For the first time since she was first born, she wished and wished with all of her heart. I want to live. Not that she didn't want to die, or that she wanted someone to save her. I want to live with him. Again, girl sneaking in on Nanahoshi's boy. Girl sneaking on Nanahoshi's boy. The time she had spent living with the boy had not been long, but even in that short span, he had stolen her heart and usurped all the memories of death that had filled it. The boy was hope. He was the first hope the girl had known. That hope kept her head raised high and faced forward. For the first time since she was first born, she turned an eye to her own power. The moment she died, she bit her lip hard enough to draw blood, then used her power. Her power could turn back time for a single day, or at least it was believed to do so. Everyone had a vague sense that something was strange about her power, but the ability was so convenient that no one had bothered to investigate any further. Now the girl had forced out so much of her might that she thought her mind would burst. She used the power to alter the past. the world looped, with the girl at its center. Interesting, because again, it kind of implied to me, or at least my theory was going on the idea that at some point in the future, they were going to get to this person, because they brought up this person. They brought up this person being like very weak, doesn't live for very long, always dies. And the assumption was that at some point, somebody's going to get to her and protect her, or Sid was going to get to her to protect her. Somebody was going to keep her safe. And that they were going to utilize her power to send Nanahoshi back, and that Nanahoshi just wouldn't have her memories. This is implying that no, she completely altered the past. The girl's power stretched back into the past to the year 400 of the Armored Dragon era, to the citadel of Roa in Fatoa, where the boy she loved had lost his life. Interesting that it all happened there. A rift in time and space opened in the sky above the town. In the depths of the rift was a being with a powerful connection to the boy. This being bore a striking resemblance to the soul of the girl who had wanted to live together with the boy. And Nanahoshi, thus to create a future where the boy would be spared, she altered the world and opened a path for him to live. As a result, in the year 500 of the Armored Dragon era, the boy was saved. Or he should have been. Even with the girl's great power, causing a person who was not supposed to have a future to exist in the past was impossible. It was nothing like preventing someone from being injured or contracting a disease. Though the rift in space-time remained, the being within did not come down into the world. The girl's power became locked in a bitter stalemate with the power of the world itself. The world moved on, uncaring, 400, 401, 402, 403. But as it did, a single lost soul found its way through the rift. So this is implying right here that she needed to change something. And so she created some sort of change in the past. With the girl's power, she altered the past. Back here, 400 of the Armored Dragon era, she opened a rift here and brought something with a powerful connection to him right here. But it didn't change anything. I put something there, but it didn't change. That was Nanahoshi. Put Nanahoshi right here, but nothing changed. And she was having a tug-of-war with time. Then at some point, Rudeus, I'm just kind of traveling around. Ooh, what's up, guys? Just pops over here. Just goes to that little rift that was created. Like them summoning Nanahoshi there. He kind of just got caught in with it. Which that was kind of the assumption to begin with. That he was just caught up in everything. The world moved on, uncaring. A single lost soul found its way through the rift. This soul bore no connection to the boy. When the boy was transported, before the girl's power had been used to summon him, this soul had simply happened to be close by. But it was a soul, and so it managed to slip in unseen through the rift, even as the world was trying to block it up. The soul wandered aimlessly for a little while until it came across an infant on the verge of death and slipped inside of it. Yep. The soul had belonged to the person who would be named Rudius Grey Rat. Rudius Grey Rat's existence left the smallest of alterations on the world. He changed the thinking of Roxy McGurdia. He derailed the life of Sylphiette, and he imparted knowledge on Rudius Grey Rat. These actions weakened the world's ability to resist, and a rift expanded outwards. In the year 417 of the Armored Dragon era, Nanahoshi Shizuka was summoned. Rudius Grey Rat's existence had altered the world more than the girl had hoped for. It was only supposed to have been enough change that the boy would be saved, but it did not stop there. History branched off in an unknown direction. The world changed. It is impossible to know if these changes were those the girl wished for, as she had not yet been born. A few years after Rudius' death, she will be. In exchange for the loops, she'd be born as an empty shell, as a blessed child, losing all but the slightest hint of her power. To grant her wish, she'll be born into a final world. Whether she will survive to the end is a tale for another time. Okay. Okay. I had to reread that. Okay, I had to reread that. The fact that I was like, okay, an empty shell of a blessed child, like losing all sense of her power or whatever. There's like a moment where I'm like thinking, wait, is this something that we already know? No, it said a few years after Rudius' death, she will be born. Okay, so it's not something that we know yet. I'm like, okay. I'm like, wait, is this like somebody we've run into before? I don't know. We've got a couple blessed childs and whatnot. Yeah. Anyways, that's very interesting. It confirms a lot of what I was suspecting about the whole displacement incident, obviously. Very much so, kind of in line with what we were kind of theorizing very early on. The idea that, yes, Nanahoshi was in this little orb. It caused the displacement incident. Somebody brought her here. It plays in Nanahoshi's theory of the idea of something happening later on and that she was sort of brought there afterwards as a way of kind of countering that it's all for something. Again, Rudeus, I think you're missing the point of this book. This kind of implies that we're supposed to do something in the future, and that's why she gets this theory and wants to put herself in suspension for something later. Now, the interesting thing is the whole reason that they're there isn't necessarily for Orid and whatnot. That was the big shocker there. It's not necessarily for Orid like I'd originally assumed it was going to be. Like, this is going to be for something for the fight with the Man God. This is literally just the origin of everything of why Rudeus is there. Simple as that. Is that this kingdom thought that they can bring in some guy from another world and they would have some super overpowered abilities to save them. Again, the most realistic isekai ever. Dead. Not really that important. But he gained the love of this blessed child. And the blessed child changed everything. Now, it does make me kind of wonder if this is so close to when Rudeus dies, which would be in line with what's going on with the Man God. Is this war where she kept dying and where he would eventually die in, does it have any connection to the war of Laplace? Is this something that's going to happen with Laplace? Again, would it be the one where, technically Orsa was sort of trying to get prepared for with Ariel taking the throne over there? That Ariel needs to be there because she's going to help them with magic and all that kind of stuff for this big war that's coming. Because it says right here, the location where he died is the citadel of Roa in Fatoa. This is in that area. This is in Asra. This is in the Fatoa region. Interesting. Again, technically where the displacement incident happened. Very interesting. Very interesting. It is also curious how the initial impact was sort of creating something that would cause a rift in the time. And that Nanahoshi herself, with a tie-in with him, sort of got swept up into it. It makes me almost think that the actual effect of her wanting to change something in the past could be Nanahoshi, something in the past that could alter things enough, but it could be simply the power was triggering a displacement incident. It was sending back a massive amount of mana to cause a massive disaster that could technically deface that region and thus prevent a necessity for them to have to summon somebody in the end. But I think it's probably tied in with the Laplace War in some way. But unfortunately, because she's such a unreliable narrator, because she's so broken, we can't really get a sense of what the hell's happening there. But anyways, again, answer one massive question, create 50 million more questions. But anyhow, that is volume 26. That is the end of the mainline series. Conclusion, Pachi Pachis, clap clap. I've made it through the mainline series. Again, we still have like 5 more books to go through, apparently. It's never going to end. The Mushoku Tensei content is never going to end, but cool stuff there. Where does Andrew rate this volume? This is going to be tough. I have to be truthful here. This is going to be extremely tough for me because I think I have such a frustration with how things kind of progress at the very end of this. Because we open up this whole situation with, the fighting god coming, Royce pulling out his trump card, fighting the battle against him, defeating him, and then a very quick wrap up of like, okay, then everybody's happy, go back home, make whoopee. And then it starts to do the whole process with the man god, wrapping up situation with the man god, jumping forward, seeing his death, jumping back, having a little brief moment saying goodbye to Geese for some reason, jumping forward into his death, standing before the man god, and then jumping over to here and getting all this kind of conclusions in the dossier. I love the dossier. I just would have rather have had the dossier been Rudeus just talking about where everything goes. That's, I think, my biggest frustration is that dossier should have been Rudeus just saying, yeah, this is what's happened with him. This is what happened with, her. This is what's happened with Norn. This is what happened with Aisha. Him saying what happened with them. I do find it interesting and in a very clever way of saying sort of everything that's happened with Rudeus from a third-person perspective, from a researcher's perspective, what the public sees everything happening. But I'd rather have had Rudeus do it. In the end, yes, I do acknowledge that a lot of my frustrations with the last volume is stuff that's going to be handled inside volumes. That doesn't necessarily get rid of my frustrations with how these final volumes have played out, because I think that it sort of goes away from how well Refugin has done going up to this volume. If I take out my frustrations with how much jumping around it does, and how much I would have liked it to have taken its time to give us a little after story, I would have given this an S rank. I would have given this an S because even though I have my frustrations with the Battle of Body Gotti, like a lot of that I feel like is kind of unnecessary for what kind of story Rudeus' story was. I think this is literally a perfect ending for Rudeus. Despite my frustrations with Body Gotti fight, despite my frustrations with how it tries to skip forward and just glosses over where everybody goes, this is a perfect ending for Rudeus' story. Like, I could not have asked for a better conclusion of his life. He was happy. He had no regrets. He still wants to do so many things. His forgiveness of the man god, which takes a massive amount of courage, and I give him massive props for that, is insane. I don't know if I'd be able to. Like, his ability to do that is literally through his experience in his life. He was happy with his life. He felt he concluded everything. The massive amount of maturity that was displayed in his discussion with the man god is proof this guy has changed, and he experienced something in this world, and he's happy with how everything played out. There's plenty of moments throughout this volume that literally says, I have no regrets. I'm happy. I've experienced enough. I pulled things off. I had a fulfilling life. And yes, that goes to why he's able to forgive the man god. You're sort of the reason I was able to do that. Thanks, dude. Gambare. Good luck with your side of it. I'm done. Peace out. Again, this volume, I want to say S because it's a perfect end for Rudeus. It's a perfect end for him. The things that are making me want to not give it S rank is because the beginning of it kept it from thematically and narratively being a perfect ending. The jumping around in time so much, like I said earlier, he's in his deathbed. He's not in his deathbed. He's young. He's old. He's old, young. Diary. Like, he keeps jumping around. Narratively, it's all over the place in how it tells it. I'm going to give it A+ for now. I might change my mind when I do my tier list and I really kind of look at each of them. I'm going to give it an A+ for right now. I might change that next week. I want to give it an S because, again, I think it's a perfect ending for Rudeus. But there's a lot in here where it's like, it feels like it has the opportunity to fill in the gaps, but it chooses to be vague. And that's where it kind of frustrates me. I guess the best way to put it is Volume 26 is a perfect conclusion to Rudeus, but it's not a perfect conclusion of Mushoku Tensei. That's the best way I can put it. That's why I don't... It's S tier as an ending to Rudeus. It's A+ as an ending to Mushoku Tensei. I guess that's the best way to explain it. But yeah, I'm just gonna put it. I'm gonna put it A+ for right now. We'll see next week. But yeah, that's it. That's it. It is like a whole bunch of pictures in the back here, but I think most of all these are literally images at the bottom. It sucks because this volume, like most of the volume, is pictures, and they're pictures that were at the end of every single volume. So it's not like there's really much in here that's new. I don't remember seeing much in here that was new. And in some cases where I see some that I don't recognize, and I'm like, well, I probably just forgot to check the last of that volume. Like Isolda's picture in here, I don't know if I ever seen before. Gino, I don't think I've seen before, and again, I could have just missed it. Casual Roxy outfit's kind of cute. I don't think we've seen Christina and Lara and Lily. Lily got the whole like overalls on. That's super cute. That is super cute. Okay, that's super cute. Lucy, Sieg. Sieg looks mean. A message from Refugin. At long last, the final volume. Thank you for joining me on the journey. That's it. Refugin's like, yeah, it's done. Thanks. Refugin. Anyways, that is it. I guess to give people a brief overall thoughts of my review on the overall series, I really do love this series. Overall, as a franchise, I think this has been an absolutely amazing journey, and like I said, I'm really looking forward to the side chapters because it's a lot of stuff that's supposedly answered that I really want to get into. Character stuff, character side stories and whatnot, more in depth with all these characters that have grown to love. I think that's really a testament to what I love so much about this series, and again, it's really what my only real frustration is with how this kind of concludes, is how it gets away from so much of the other characters. I love how Refugin writes its characters. Every single character that he includes and introduces are characters with flaws. They have struggles. They have things that are easily relatable, or if you can't relate to them, you can at least understand them. There's a lot of characters in the story that are just it's just a great cast of characters. And that's an experience that I've had from the very beginning, really getting into these characters and loving them so much. I will say, like, my favorite arc of the entire series is probably post-displacement incident. I think displacement incident all the way until he arrives back at the refugee camp is probably the best story arc of it all. It has adventure. It has some great chemistry. It has the discovery. One of the most WTF moments of the entire series is meeting Orsted for the first time. The first discussion with the Man God after Orsted. That stuff, all that right there was so incredible. Beyond that point, it was still a great series. The university arc and everything was still fantastic. Going into, including Nanahoshi would completely flip the script for the entire story. Going into the fight against Orsted himself was absolutely epic. But I think that's where, for me, things sort of changed quite a bit for me for the overall story. Is I think after Rudeus fights Orsted and joins the Orsted Corporation, it still has so many great moments, but I think overall thematically and narrative-wise, it sort of tipped a little bit for me because it starts to get more into the idea of Rudeus building up the Orsted Corporation and doing all these tasks for Orsted and just going around flashing his creds to everybody and just bumping into people constantly. Basically, the point in which Rudeus got a job, an actual job in a corporation. He became a CEO, and we all know CEOs are boring people. Things quite shifted a bit for me with that whole thing, but I still enjoyed it. So many great character moments, like with Zenith and everything, was still happening. The biggest stink for me overall with this series is, like I've said before several times, I think the moment in which Rudeus got the letter from Geese, I feel like it almost feels like Refugin wanted to end the main story. It just feels like it was trying to get to a big bad and conclude it. Because I feel like a lot of what made the series special, which is the characters, got put off the side. We're done with that right now. We've got to focus on the big bad. Focus on the big bad. Prepare for the big bad. And it never really reached the heights of the series had before then, with great character moments and drama and struggles and all that kind of stuff. It has turned into big bad. It's not that it's bad, just that it wanted to conclude his story. And again, I acknowledge that a lot of people believe that that's fine because the side stories. And that could have been Refugin's intent, but doesn't change the mainline series. So we'll see. We'll see if a lot of those side stories kind of correct a lot of that frustration. But for the mainline series, it's still an amazing series. It's still fantastic. Still love it to death. Just my honest thoughts. Again, comes down to Refugin is incredible at characters with stains, characters with flaws, and for his ability to not be afraid of really touching on those subjects, I give him massive credits. And this has had some of the most relatable, heartbreaking moments because of that, especially with everything around Zenith, which I absolutely connected to in a lot of cases. The loss of Paul, which was absolutely broke me. Reese's struggle with getting back on his feet after all those times. 12 was, probably easily the most... I became a punching bag for Refugin back there. And yes, technically the whole thing with the blessed child and Zenith was a big gut punch for me as well. Still so many incredible moments, and I can't wait to see what else we end up getting into with the side chapters. I'm going to hopefully be able to get down a full outline of each of the volumes, what's included in each of the volumes. That way I can do a pretty solid comparison between each of them as we do a tier list. Because I think that'll be a really, really fun tier list to put together, is all the volumes versus each other. I have been doing some tier listing as we go along, but I think it'll be interesting to kind of reflect back on it and really kind of see the value of each of those segments because of later on looking back at those volumes and knowing how significant they are in some cases. So we'll see. But anyhow, that's it. That's volume 26. As I mentioned before, we'll go into the tier list, and then we'll get into redundancies and 2 stories and all that kind of stuff, and then on to OTT and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this Mushoku Mondays. As always, thank you guys so much for your support. Don't go anywhere. Everybody's just waiting for that 26 to get done. They're like, all right, we're done. Peace out. He's done. Peace out. No, there's more. We're going to get into all of it. We're going to finish all of it. I mean, anything that I can get my hands on that's Mushoku Tensei related, I'm going to get into it. There's a lot of these. Apparently, there's a bunch of stories that were released with each of the volumes that was not included with the physical release of the light novels, which really sucks. Like these store-specific stories. We're going to get all those. Anything I can get my hands on, if you have it out there, hit us up in the Mushoku Monday channel on the Discord, and I'm guessing somebody can probably figure out if it's legit or not and get it to my hands. I'm gonna utilize the chats that are part of the Mushoku Monday Discord to tell me if it's something I should look into. But I want to gather it all, get it all together, and do something on it, do content on it. Because anything that Fujin has released for the series, I want to finish up before I move on to the next project, which right now is looking at pretty much 90% chance it's going to be a Sentence of Bookworm. If not that, ReZero. But it's probably going to be a Sentence of Bookworm. So thank you guys for your support. As always, thank you. All your kind words, everybody that supports the channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. I greatly appreciate you guys. It means a great deal to me. But until the next Mushoku Monday, y'all take care. I'm not here to tell you not to blame things on the way that things are. I'm not here to tell you not to blame things on the way things are for you. Oh, hey, chat. Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. That's so stupid. Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. But no.